I checked my YouTube analytics for the very first time the other day. If you know anything about YouTube analytics, you should be checking them pretty regularly. Turns out they're actually quite helpful. I'm at 70,000 subscribers. This is my first time checking the YouTube analytics. That is not good. Do not follow in my footsteps if you're an up-and-coming YouTuber. So I was checking my analytics, and turns out that around 50% of you guys watching my videos are between the ages of 13 and 24. How crazy is that? When I came to this realization, I realized I needed to make a video tailored and dedicated to you younger guys, because if you can't tell, I'm on the younger side. I am 21 years old. I know what younger guys tend to want to smell like. I have a lot of friends that I've helped get into colognes that are around my age. I know what, girls like to smell on younger guys. I know what older women like to smell on younger guys. If you're into, the cougar hunting, I've got you guys. These are 8 clone fragrances for you teenagers or young men that are gonna have you smelling like something far more expensive than you will ever be able to afford. That was really depressing, actually. I'm sure you'll be able to afford the expensive ones one day. I want to start it off with a sexy clone fragrance. The one to pull all of the women your age and the women older than you. Definitely not the women younger than you. We have got Lattafah, Honor, and Glory. Such a sexy fragrance, man. It honestly smells like the creme brulee dessert. Now, I'm sure a lot of you guys have never tried creme brulee. I feel like it's kind of one of the more under the radar desserts. I know we're not on the, I'm not talking about the food niche here, but it honestly smells like a vanilla creme brulee with some coconut. This one is kind of cheating because I actually don't think it's an exact clone of something. Apparently, it's a mix of Nishani Ani and Nishani Hasivat. Hasivat smells like a Ventus. Nishani Ani is like a spicy vanilla. I don't really get either of these fragrances in this. To me, the closest fragrance comparison, it would have to be Le Beau Le Parfum, but even that, they're just not that similar. For a clone, this is an extremely unique fragrance. Now, starting the video off with a fragrance that isn't even a clone when the video title is 8 clone fragrances, it's kind of feeling a little bit scummy right now. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't really think that through, ethically, but this one is 100% worth getting. Also, the atomizer, it's so cool. Oh, it's just fresh, gourmandish, creme brulee sexiness. I mean, there's no really better fragrance for a teenager that I can think of off the top of my head. This stuff is just really, really good. I was gonna move on to the next fragrance, and then I realized the only reason I picked this up in the first place is because of Omar from the channel School of Scent. If you've never heard of him, if you aren't watching him, you are living under a huge rock. He basically glazes this fragrance every other video, so eventually I caved. This one costed me 80 Australian dollars. If you live in the US or, Canada, I don't know how much it's gonna be over there. Probably like 40 or 50 bucks. And as a broke boy teenager, this one should be at the top of your priority and fragrance wish list. Go and get it. Performance as well, really, really solid. 8 hours longevity, cracker. This stuff, cracker. Up next on the 8 clone fragrances for teens is Maison Alhambra's Bright Peach. This is a clone of Tom Ford's Bitter Peach. Now, Tom Ford's Bitter Peach, I've honestly never really liked it that much. To me, it lent too feminine. Bright Peach though, although it says bright and not boozy, this should be renamed to Boozy Peach. It's boozy, sweet, sexy. Why don't I just have normal fragrance tester strips as a fragrance creator? That's a great question, and I really need to work on that. But we're gonna be using some cardboard strips. Is it good enough to warrant that reaction? Probably not. Will girls give you that reaction if you wear this? Also probably not, unless you look like Tom Cruise when he was 20, but you probably don't. It's really, really good though. Boozy, very peach heavy. It smells like 80% honestly is just the peach note. I don't know all the notes in this fragrance. It just smells like a boozy, sweet, and sexy peach. If you like the smell of candied peach, those sour peach ring lollies, that is the closest kind of comparison I can give to what this fragrance smells like. It is also one of the cheapest on the list, so all the broke boys listening, their ears probably just perked up. This one, I believe you can get as cheap as 30 or 40 bucks. I got it for 60 Aussie. 60 Aussie is equivalent to 30 or 40 USD. So even if you're working, long hours in McDonald's, you should be able to afford this stuff. Performance is okay. Not as strong as the Lattafah Honor and Glory I just talked about, but it's still pretty good. 6 hours longevity with quite strong projection. At least for the first 2 hours, you probably only need 4 sprays with this for people to smell you. Unless you're an oversprayer like that curly fragrance creator. She's a great creator, but no one, like, I don't care how like hot you are, no guy's gonna want to come to you with that much cologne on. Come on. Up next is an Aventus smelling cologne. Now I wasn't gonna include one on here. The reason it's on here is because one, I couldn't think of any other teenage cologne fragrances in my collection, to be completely honest. And two, most people like the Aventus DNA more than I do. So this is Mont Blanc Explorer. Would Mont Blanc admit to this being a clone? Probably not, because their ego would be too big. But if we're being completely honest with ourselves, and it's pretty well known in the community at this point, this smells around 85% similar to Creed Aventus. There is a slight difference. It's kind of hard for me to put my finger on it. I'm sure a perfumer could work out the exact difference. This one kind of smells more woody. I'm not really sure. It's citrusy, it's leather, it's woody. It's a very masculine fragrance. If you're a masculine teenager and you haven't unlocked kind of that like inner zestiness part of you that undeniably comes out later in life, then Mont Blanc Explorer could be a great option. Also, if you're maybe 24, you're starting an office job for the first time, which will probably be me in a couple years, Mont Blanc Explorer would be a fantastic office scent, without a doubt. Why? It smells inoffensive. You're just gonna smell clean and sexy. And the performance, it's not too in your face. You could use 4 sprays, it would last you a long time. But it's not gonna project like with what you'd want with some, clubbing fuckboy fragrance. This stuff's really good, especially for the older category of people watching, maybe between 20 and 25. Mont Blanc Explorer, go check it out. This one's a little bit more expensive. It was around 100 Aussie, so probably 50 or 60 USD. Speaking of fresh, clean office scents that are very inoffensive, that is completely not what this fragrance is. This is Al Haramain's Amber Oud Gold. It is an extremely accurate, scarily accurate clone of Xerjoff's Herbe Pure. Xerjoff Herbe Pure smells like a fruit, zesty, feminine basket, creamy. It's got vanilla in there, and the performance is probably one of the strongest things that you would ever try. You get around 12 hours longevity, beast mode projection. Al Haramain keeps that same projection, keeps that same longevity, but drops the price to around 120 bucks instead of 350, and makes it slightly more tolerable to the general public, which is always a win. What do I mean by more tolerable to the general public? Well, I simply mean that Herbe Pure is a very divisive fragrance, especially if you're a dude wearing it. You gotta be a certain type of dude to pull it off, if you know what I'm saying. You have to be very, very confident and just content with yourself, and I'm neither of those things, so I rarely wear Herbe Pure. But Al Haramain Amber Oud Gold is a little bit less synthetic, slightly less feminine. I just find it more bearable. I'd still honestly rarely wear it, but I feel like there is someone watching this that is connecting with what I'm saying right now, and this fragrance will be the love of their life. I can feel it. That's why I wanted to include it. Also, if you live in Europe and you want like one of those party boy summer scents, or you're traveling to Europe and you want to go party it up in Greece or something, this fragrance would be killer for that, and that's exactly what I used this for 2 months ago when I went to Europe. These first 4 cologne fragrances for teenagers are done. Moving on to these 4 here. I don't know how to pronounce this. Lattafah Qiam Silver. Allegedly, this is a clone of Bulgari Tiger, I believe. I've never smelled that before. I've tried Bulgari Man in Black once, but that's about it. This thing as a standalone, as someone that hasn't smelled the original, is fantastic. This has been stored away in my cupboard for way too long, but I decided to wear it for the past 2 days at the gym. It is killer. It's citrusy, it's got some ginger, it's very, very grapefruit dominant. If you didn't tell me it was a dupe of Bulgari Tiger, I would say it could be a dupe of Dolce & Gabbana Light Blue Forever, just made better. Performance as well, quite strong, 6-7 hours longevity with moderate projection for a very summer freshy type scent. That is very, very good. Also, look how cool this bottle is. I don't know if any of you guys have played the video game Skyrim. It looks like that thing in the Dwarven dungeons and those missions. Yeah, there's someone out there that probably is fucking with what I'm saying right now. Really, really good. If you like the smell of grapefruit, if you like a well-blended citrus inoffensive fragrance, for around 60 bucks, pick up Lattafah Qiam Silver. This wouldn't be a clone fragrance tier list, especially a clone fragrance list for teenagers, if I didn't talk about AFNAN 9 PM. Now this video, you're probably used to seeing AFNAN 9 PM videos on TikTok with commission attached. There is no commission attached to this video. I'm not sponsored by any of these brands. If AFNAN wanted to hit me up though, and pay me a lump sum of money, I wouldn't say no. And if anyone from AFNAN's listening to this video. But there is a reason it is talked about all the time, and a reason why the hype for it has gone down, but it's still very, very popular. For one, it's extremely cheap. This was, I don't know if you still can, if you're in the US, you could get this for $20 on the TikTok shop. Even in Australia now, you can get it for around 70 bucks. Insanely good value for money. You're getting a sweet, sexy, bubblegum, pear vanilla fragrance. It is a clone of Jean Paul Gaultier Ultra Belle, but I actually think this smells a little bit different. It's more fresh. The vanilla, it's not quite as dense and rich. You can tell, in my opinion, that it's not quite as high quality in terms of the ingredients, in terms of the blend, but for bang for buck, it's better than Ultra Belle. Performance too is pretty good, 7 hours longevity. Maybe you could stretch it to 8 with moderate projection. This is kind of talked about as a compliment monster. I've never gotten a compliment from it, but I don't want to blame that on the fragrance. I'm gonna blame that on myself. Damn, that was depressing. I'm sure for a lot of guys out there, this would get a lot of compliments. Really, really good. 2 clone fragrances left, and I have actually left the best 2 clones for last to reward the people that stayed and dedicated their time and attention span in a modern world where dopamine is so easy to come by. On this channel, okay, Kayhaan Classic. This is the only Dior Homme Intense dupe I've tried, but it's insanely good, so I don't really have, oh, let's do a Jeremy fragrance in the cap. I don't really see any other reason why I would pick up another Dior Homme Intense dupe. It smells so freaking similar, especially in the opening. Personally, as just someone that loves perfume but isn't into kind of the sciencey, artsy side of it, I could never tell the difference. If you sprayed this on your wrist, you sprayed Dior Homme Intense on the other wrist, I ain't telling the difference. Even in the dry down, in the air, they smell so freaking similar. Another amazing thing about Kayhaan Classic is that because Dior Homme Intense over the years has gotten weaker from my experience. Right now, the batch that I have with Dior Homme Intense is around 6 hours longevity with soft projection. This one, you're pushing 7 to 8 hours with medium projection. And as someone that edges to good performance, this one is one I'm gonna wear over the real Dior Homme Intense. So yes, this is probably the first clone. Actually, it's not, because no. I was gonna say it's the first clone on this list that is actually better than the original, but I've already talked about a few that are better than the original. This stuff I will take over Dior Homme Intense if I could get either one for free. So if you're watching this as a broke teenager and you want Dior Homme Intense for cheap, Kayhaan Classic. Come on, do yourself a favor. You're gonna smell mature, you're gonna smell classy, sophisticated. If you're, in high school, you got prom coming up, you wanna impress and riz your date, Sigma Alpha, all that stuff, Kayhaan Classic. This is like a 9 out of 10. This is insanely good. I've heard no one really talk about it. The final clone fragrance of today's video is the best clone fragrance of all time. It has been my favorite clone fragrance of all time for around 8 months, and it is in my top 20 colognes of all time, excluding just clones. And that is Lattafah Khamrah. It smells as good as the juice looks. You see how it looks almost drinkable? It smells edible too, because of that praline note. I believe praline is just kind of like a date, like the fruit, that's what it looks like. It's vanilla, it's praline, it's a boozy but not over boozy fragrance. That's why I actually prefer this to Kilian's Angel Share. I think Kilian's Angel Share is just a little bit too boozy in my opinion. This one is more cinnamon heavy, and it reminds me of Christmas time when life was better. There's just something about this. Not to mention, this is probably one of the strongest performing clones I've ever tried. 9-10 hours longevity with strong projection. This is a 2 to 3 spray monster. Also, did I mention it's like 40 USD and like 80 Australian dollars? Like, why even get real fragrances at this point? Let's just sell our soul to these Arabian companies because they are cooking. They're stirring the pot and absolutely cooking up insanely good fragrances right now. There is a Lattafah Khamrah Quaha, which apparently adds a coffee note. That also sounds insanely good, and talking about it is making me edge a little bit, and I definitely need to get my hands on that. If someone from Lattafah is watching this, you somehow made it through the whole video, you should definitely send that over to me and I will make a review of it. Best clone fragrance ever. Kayhaan Classic is probably a close second, but either one of those two, if you get anything out of this video, actually if you get anything out of this video, get Lattafah Khamrah for winter time, and then get Mont Blanc Explorer or Lattafah Honor and Glory for the summer as a teenager. You'll be the best smelling guy at your school wherever you go. You're gonna smell better than your dad, who probably has like one of those crazy Creed and Tom Ford collections. So